Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and thanks for joining me again. This week we're going to harness the power of our triads in order to create some really tasteful Americana style guitar parts. We're playing over a common chord progression in the key of C, and we're going to carve out some choice guitar parts using triads as our roadmap. And although I'm giving this the broad label of Americana, just because I guess I have to call it something, to me really this is more about just playing the guitar with a good strong sense of melody, direction, and a pop sensibility. It's the kind of thing you'd be asked to do on many a session. Decorate the song tastefully with an awareness of what's going on around you. So first of all, we need to learn the changes that we'll be playing over. I'm going to run through the progression once and then we'll break it down. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we started with 2 bars of C, that's our 1 chord, then we went to 2 bars on the 4 chord, F, and then we went to 1 bar on the relative minor, the 6, A minor, 1 bar of G, that's the 5, back to C for 1 bar, and then we did a little 4 minor to 5 turnaround, which I love the sound of, F minor to G, back home for another go round. As we start making our way through the lead study, we'll get into a bit more detail on the function of some of those chords and the kind of options that makes available to us as lead players. So we kick things off with this little pickup line where we're landing that hammer on beat 1 of the bar. So that's 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1. Now this is a C major triad in second inversion, so that's with the 5th in the bass, and it's on that lowest string set. As you'll know if you've been to my channel before, I'm a big fan of these low down, fat sounding chord voicings. And the spread triads that we can generate from those. If you've not seen my thorough video on triads and how to construct these sorts of chords, do check that out. I'll link it in the description. So the logic here is pretty straightforward. We're playing over a C chord, and we're going to start on a C major triad, hammering onto the major 3rd from the open D string. Now we're going to add to what we've already got and finish off that C chord shape. So that second part of the phrase sounds like this. We're just taking our second finger and hammering on to the G string 2nd fret from the open string, and I'm only striking the G and B strings together there at that point. Then come back off, pick the same 2 strings again, then pick the open D string, hammer on to that major 3rd. So really the whole mood here is suspension within the chord, C sus2 resolving back to itself as a C major chord. It's a beautiful sound. I use that a lot. Even in this one piece we'll revisit that idea a good few times. Now we're still on the C major chord, but we're thinking ahead to the next chord, F, and we're thinking about how to transition over to it. So we're going to play this. So this would be a C major triad here, again a chunk of your C major chord shape. Hammer onto the F note on the D string. And again that's that sus sound we just spoke about, but on the F this time. Beautiful way to play an F chord, sus2, simple but beautiful. Now we play around with that sound a little more before landing on this solid F major triad, courtesy of hammering on the G string. Now still on the F but thinking about the chord that's fast approaching, A minor, we're going to play this. So these 2 notes here would be from an F major triad, and then you've got your A minor, we're thinking 5th root. So we've got F to A minor, and then on A minor we're going to play this rundown, which again is everything from a triad plus the 2, so this sus2 kind of sound keeps coming back in. That's a good thing to work on, this idea of taking a triad, in this case A minor, and then simply add the 2 in before the flat 3 each time. So now you've got root, 2, flat 3, 5. It immediately makes that triad much more melodic sounding. As always, I'd learn that all over the fretboard, starting on the low E string next, for example. And then making it major by unflattening the 3. Hopefully you'll recognize where that's happening now within this phrase and many of the other phrases. Now we're landing on this note here as the G chord arrives. Surprise, surprise, we've grabbed the root note. So you've got F, A minor, G, and then already we're repeating the idea we just spoke about. So you've got G, then the second sliding to the third, then the fifth. Now we're transitioning over to the C chord again, so we're going to grab this. Kind of Hendrixy. Beautiful sound. C major triad, and then again we're bringing the 2 in, hammering on from it to the third, and we're hitting the A string and the D string together, making sure not to block that ringing D string as we hammer onto the A string. Now we're on top of our first turnaround, F minor to G. We're just going to grab these triads, F minor, G. So there's your F minor triad in first inversion, so that's with the flat 3 in the bass. Then the G major first inversion, major third in the bass. And that's the first of our 4 progressively more involved solos. Here it is with the metronome at 100 BPM. 1, 2, 3. Now we're on to our second solo, and we're going to kick it off with this phrase. So I'm visualizing this C major triad here, string set 1 first inversion, and again we're bringing the 2 in, so we have somewhere to hammer on from. So we're hammering from the 2 to the 3 on the G string, while the 5 stays on the B string. Then go back, then bring the root note in while these 2 continue to ring, and again you've got that beautiful C sus2 tonality. And then on the top 2 strings, common little stax Motown kind of phrase, barring the 8th fret on the top 2, sliding to 10 and back. Back to this hammer on twice more. Now over the F chord that comes up next, again we're thinking of this kind of F sus2 sound. Notice how we're just reusing this C major triad that we were visualizing, and just bending the G string a semitone higher to complete the sound of this chord, F sus2. Root 2 and 5. And then we do this. Very common country kind of idea. F major triad. Pull off to a C major triad, back onto the F major triad. Now on the A minor chord we play all A minor triad stuff with that 1 added note, the 2 again. End up on this fingering here for an A minor triad on string set 3. Fingers 2, 3 and 1. Leave the little finger out, you'll see why. We're then sliding everything down to a G major triad, where we do another one of these half-step bends on the G string this time. Gives us a sus4 kind of sound. I think that's a beautiful sound. A minor to G. Now we're thinking about resolving that G to C. So we're thinking about staying on those same 3 strings for maximum efficiency, and we're looking at getting back to this C major triad first inversion here. G, C. fact, we hollow out the middle. We just play this sixth interval, the third and the root. And with that phrase, you'll see that it's the root of C, the 2 again, sliding to the third, and then the 5th with a little hammer on to what would be the 6th. So that's the first time we've brought something into these triads from outside of the 1, the 3 and the 5, and that 2 as a passing note. Suddenly we've got the 6 in there, just for a little decoration. So C major, we're thinking 1, 2 again, sliding to the 3, then the 5th, and then a little bit of a dab on the 6th degree. Knowing your triads, of course, makes it much easier to find where the 6s are and all your other extensions, because all you have to think of is where's your 5, the 6 will be a whole tone above. Dead simple if you know your triads. And again, this idea of the 2 is always a nice go-between. You know, the root and the 3, the 2 can take you between. Root 2 to 3, or 3, 2 to root. And then we're on that turnaround again, F minor to G. We're going to start by descending an F minor triad. And then on the G chord, playing a couple of interesting things. Again, we're still mostly thinking about a G major triad, but we're grabbing the 6th, the 5th, the 4 and the 3. So F minor, G, resolving down to this G note, but on the C chord, so that's your 5th of your C chord, of course. And that would be the first note of the third solo. So here's solo 2 with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Lesson materials for this one include my backing track, as well as tab and notation in both Guitar Pro and PDF formats. You can get hold of those by going to the links in the description, where you can join my Patreon for just £10 a month and you get access to all of my lesson materials, past, present and future, as well as a ton of bonus stuff too. It's a bit of a bargain, I must say. You get to be part of a thriving community of like-minded musicians. We have well over 200 members on there now, and it's a truly active place. We even have some collaboration projects going on between members. So yeah, don't miss out. For just £10 a month, you can be part of all of that too. Or, if Patreon isn't your bag, you can go to the Gumroad link and buy this one lesson in particular. Either way, it's your support that allows me to keep making these videos, and I really do appreciate it, so thank you. Solo number 3 begins with this run of phrases. Again, all triad based. We're thinking C major, with that little half bend to the sus4 and back on the G string again. Now we move along the same string set to the root position version of that C major triad, where the bend on the G string this time is a whole tone, up and back. And in fact, pull the string down because you won't have much luck pushing it up. It's a beautiful sound, and it's really important to try and get this bend to be super accurate, and more importantly, don't allow these two fingers to be pulled down with the bend. You've got to keep these two holding down the fort nice and steady. Now we move this down a whole tone to a B flat major triad. Now the logic there is that we're thinking C major, but we're heading to F, so we can play C to C7 to F, where the C7 is functioning as the 5 of 4. This B flat major triad suggests C7 if we play it over a C bass note, or over a C chord in the backing track in this case. So if you think about C7, these three notes would give us the flat 7, the 9, and the sus4, or the 11. I think of it as a sus4. I think of C9 with a sus4, and then you can always resolve that sus4 to a 3 before resolving to the F major in this case. So we have C major to C7, courtesy of that B flat triad, resolving to F, with that same Hendrixy thing we did earlier on the C. So that would be an F major triad, first inversion, string set 3. And again, we're using that 2 as a place to hammer on from. So you've got C, C7 to F. Now on the F chord, we're going to play another one of these triad-based runs, so thinking F major triad, but with the 2 added between the 1 and the 3. More just out of convenience than anything, just so we've got somewhere to slide from rather than this jump. And then we're repeating the exact same idea in that upper octave. So we're thinking F, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 5. 2 octaves of the same pattern. And then we bring in this little country lick. Thinking F major, but I'm grabbing the minor third and pulling off to what would be the 2 again, and then the root. And then we're thinking A minor lands on the next beat of the bar, so we're going to grab these 2 notes. That would be the 5th and the flat 3 of your A minor. So now you've got this run, F, A minor. And then the G chord comes along, and we play this. Again, a very Stax, Motown, Steve Cropper kind of a vibe. If you've seen my Motown lead study lesson, that'll look familiar. And if you haven't, check it out at the link in the description. It's a really good one. If we break that down into our triad stack for G major, here's our root position triad, string set 1, hammering in from the 2 again to the 3. Then we move along to this triad on string set 2, the easiest one to play. Hammer on again. Now we're on our 3rd string set. And then we're going to resolve to C, grabbing its root note on beat 1 of that bar. And it's always really important to pick those double stops with confidence and accuracy. Really get behind the string and pop your way through them. It's all a big part of the tone. That'll do more for your tone than buying any new pedal would ever do. Now over the turnaround this time, again I'm thinking F minor. Visualize this F minor triad here on string set 1, 1st inversion. One of my favorite tricks, again, that you'll know if you've seen any of my other videos. So we're grabbing the flat 3 and the 2 again, bending that 2 up to the flat 3 an octave above. You could also think of that as the 9, of course, like an F minor 9 sound. Now on the G, we're thinking G7. So we're really hearing this, F minor 9, G7, it's going to resolve back to C beautifully. Because the G is functioning as the 5 chord of our key, we can bring in the flat 7 and make it dominant. And we want to take those liberties as a lead player and decorate things that way as much as we can. F minor, G7, where we're taking the flat 7, bending that 3 up to a sus4 before releasing it down, so it's only a half bend. And then again bringing the 2 in. Before resolving to C major, thinking of this C major triad here, taking the top 2 strings and bending into the note on the B string from a semitone below. Kind of pretty sounding. 4 minor, 5 to 1. The first lesson I uploaded to YouTube, almost a year ago now, was a deep dive into using triads to create these double stop country bends. So do check that out as well, I'll link to it in the description. So here's the 3rd solo with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, solo 3 has already kicked off. We've played the first beat of it when we resolved to C there. Now, speaking of those country bends, we move down to the next C major triad, which would be 1st inversion here on string set 1, taking the top 2 strings of that and bending the B string up a whole tone and then letting it come back down. And then we move to the next 2 strings of that triad, again thinking about the 3rd, but starting on the 2 instead, and bending up to the 3rd. Earlier on we did the same kind of thing but with a hammer on. Now we're bending. Let it come back, then grab the root. again, that's all triad based. Always tempted to go to the bridge pickup for that kind of stuff. Now we're on the F chord. We're going to do something very simple and just grab 2 notes from a root position, F major triad, the notes on the G and the B strings. Now on the rest of this F major chord, we're going to use this trick that I love, that I think sounds so good. Thinking about F major triads, but just playing the double stops from the triads. And again, doing a little slide into that top one, which if you think about it, would be part of the triad constructed on the 2. The G minor triad there. Now one way you can get some interesting colours over a major chord is to think about the extensions you could add. If we're playing over an F major, that would be the 4 in the key of C, so that would take a 7th, but a major 7th, not a dominant 7th of course. So we can be thinking F major 7. This little A minor triad gives us everything we need for an F major 7 in some ways. You've got the 3rd, the 5th and the 7. It's a nice little miniature voicing for it. So again, triad based, but using a different triad as the upper extensions of another chord. And we're going to rake through that before grabbing the 15th fret of the top E, then the 15th fret of the B, sliding to 17, landing right on the A minor. So as well as being the upper structure of an F major 7, we're also just laying the groundwork, anticipating the next chord change to A minor. So we're sliding into the 5th, and then chucking the root on top, and then we're going to descend a bit of an A minor blues scale. We can use the blues scale on the relative minor anytime we like. Now we're thinking quick, we're thinking G, there's the major 3rd, we grab it straight away, A minor to G, then we're going to do one of these country bends again. On the G we're thinking about this triad, taking the notes on the G and B strings, moving the G string down a whole tone to get to the 2, so we've got somewhere to bend into the 3 from. This time we're actually going to pick the top note, so the B string, release the pre-bent 14 on the G string, and then the root, the G note. So that's A minor to G. And then over the G, again we're suggesting G7 here. We grab this really lovely double stop, the 9 and the flat 7. Similar to what we did on the C earlier when we moved it down to B flat to get a C7 kind of voicing. You could also think of these as coming from an F major triad to get a G7 voicing. So you can basically move your triad down a whole tone to access some of that flat 7 tonality. So we play this, and then we need to resolve to C. So we grab this 6th interval, again thinking of a C major triad here, where we've got the 5th and the 3rd. And then we move down to double 7, barring them both on the G and E strings, hammering on to the C major again. That's that thing of coming from the 2 to the 3, only this time we're harmonizing it a 6th higher as well. So that whole run from the F chord sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. Now we're on the turnaround again, and we're going to use this as our ending. We're going to let it slow down. We're going to descend an F minor 6 arpeggio. And again, if you've mastered your F minor triads, how easy is it to just add that 6? You just got to know where your 5th is and go up a whole tone, and you've got your 6th. Then we're thinking G7. This would be a G major triad first and foremost, flat 7, and then resolving to C major, the 3rd and the root. Very pretty stuff, almost has a Bach-like quality to it, a bit of that counterpoint. At some point in the near future, I'm going to do a video on easy ways to think about and apply some of these little elements of the Bach counterpoint harmony style. Here's solo 4 with the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. that's it. The power of triads. If we harness that power, we can do so much with them. Remember that these triads are not instructions, they're a roadmap, and that's a really important way to look at it. When you're playing over changes, you've got to use these notes as landmarks and embellish around them. Whether you're coming up with entire solos, or crafting catchy little melodic hooks, or comping behind another rhythm player, these triads are truly indispensable. You really want to have them down on all of your string sets all over the fingerboard, because we're still just scratching the surface here. There's so much more we can do with these triads if they're truly understood. If you enjoyed the lesson, or if you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and also hit that notification bell. It does make a big difference to the visibility and growth of this channel. And it's totally free for you to do it. It takes all of a split second, and it does mean a lot to me. So, enjoy working on this. Let me know how you're getting along. And don't forget to check out those other videos that I mentioned as well. Alright, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.